All right, people. I see that people have started strolling in, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this segment of Mikasa Sukasa. We are live today. It is Saturday, June the 16th, and it's been a crazy week. I'm sure that many of you have been following the Office of Inspector General report. I'm sure, right? Nah, probably not, because, well, the truth of the matter is there has been a lot of censorship regarding I hear myself. There we go. But there's been a lot of censorship regarding the Office of Inspector General report. I've been releasing several videos on it. HA has done several videos on it. A lot of people have been trying to cover the revelations of the Inspector General report, but unfortunately, it is taking a hell of a lot for us to break through. So if you see anybody uncovering the revelations of that Inspector General report, make sure that you release that information and you share it wherever you can, because, well, I mean, it's important for us to know what's really going on in our democracy. I said in the video yesterday that it doesn't really make any sense to me that in your state and mine, whenever we want an attorney general to be when we're trying to find one, we vote for it. When we want a deputy attorney general, we vote for them. Almost every position in our state, judges as well, we vote for them. So why are we allowing one person in the executive office to pick attorney generals and deputy attorney generals and even FBI agent or FBI directors and things? Why are we letting them choose from the top instead of allowing the people to choose and forcing those agents, those directors, those attorney generals, those Supreme Court justices to appeal to those they represent or supposedly represent, versus playing the game so that when the right person gets in office, they can then take advantage of it? So definitely check out those OIG report videos that I did. I have a few more coming. I have a lot coming this week, actually. So definitely check those out. I do want to go ahead and get to the nitty gritty. So apparently there has been a major staff shakeup at the Young Turks. Can't say that I'm surprised. However, I think that I am not the only one that thought if there was going to be a shakeup, then it would be with perhaps Jimmy Dore, because of how radical he is, saying things like, maybe we should have proof before we say Russia hacked our election, or Rand Paul clearly said there's no, chemical weapons or proof of chemical weapons being used in Syria. Radical things like that, radical talking points, like asking for proof before we jump to any conclusions, or saying that maybe it's best that we move towards peace with North Korea, instead of saying that now, after accusing Trump of being too soft on being too hard on North Korea, we're now claiming that he's simply too soft on North Korea. So, I thought it would be with Jimmy from that perspective. However, it was not. There was a few firings, but the one that caught my attention, which is one that I'm sure caught the attention of a lot of people, was the firing of Nomiki Konst. Now, you all know how I feel about Nomiki. I'm not going to say I don't like her as a person. I don't know her that well. But I do believe that as far as politics is concerned, she is naive. Her talking points were like, I don't know if you've done this before, Nomiki, but that's not how this stuff really works. Believing in the Democratic Party, believing that simply because you have a spot on the Uniform Commission and that you'll be able to affect change and there will be no blowback, is naive. That's not even an insult to her. It's the facts. Also, you all know where I stand with both having Nomiki on the Unity Commission with the Democratic Party and the Justice Democrats. And both of those entities, in reality at the time, both belonging to Young Turks. I said there's no reason for a major media conglomerate to ever be involved that deeply in the political parties. Like, that's not our job. I'm not saying you can't bolster a particular candidate that you like because of their personal policies. But when you start putting all your chips in the basket of one party, it looks a little suspect, especially when you got $20 million from the top party donors. And you're claiming it's because we did good work. So we took $20 million. Yeah, no, it's not how it works. And so here's what makes Nomiki Konst firing so interesting. As one of the biggest critics of Nomiki, I always said until we address the superdelegates issue, then there's really nothing to talk about as far as the Democratic primary is concerned. They can make all the changes in the world, but if the superdelegates are still allowed to reign free and come out 8 months before the elections and start trying to influence people's votes, then what is there to discuss, right? And just when it looked like they were going to make absolutely no ground on the superdelegate discussion, there was some serious ground made on the superdelegate discussion. And Tom Perez even came out and said, look, we don't want to touch the superdelegates, but we're going to have to, or else we're going to lose. Because despite popular belief, Democrats did not and are not doing as well in California as they would like to. The establishment Democrats in New York are not doing as well as you would think they are. Like the state of the state of New York, despite it being known as a blue state, look at their state legislature. It is not blue, okay? And the swing states, same thing. Michigan went dominantly to Bernie Sanders, and where did the superdelegates swing? Right? So superdelegates were the problem to solve, and it actually looked like the Unity Reform Commission made some progress. This was just last week. Now, what comes next? All of a sudden, Nomiki Konst is fired. And Hannah, who was part of the segment think tank, had very warm regards for the Young Turks. However, Nomiki decided not to comment at all regarding her firing, which makes me believe it was not consensual, it was not mutual, it was not so she can move on to bigger and better things. It was retaliatory. I truly believe, and this is speculative. I want people to understand that this is speculative on my behalf. But I'm really good with putting the data points together, and I'm sure it does not take a rocket scientist to see whenever superdelegates are being pushed. You know, they already are in the process of talking about superdelegates can't actually vote until after there's a clear stalemate after the first major vote at the Democratic National Convention. There has to be a clear stalemate. They can't, and that was being discussed, and the delegates were pissed. The donors were pissed. So if the donors are pissed, and those same donors are the ones who donated $20 million to the Young Turks, what do you think would happen to the Young Turks representative who was on the Unity Reform Commission? And who was very boisterous about it too. It's not like she's shy. This is one of the reasons why I say the media should not have all their eggs put in one basket of any individual party. Because this could have went a different way, believe it or not. It could have went, Nomiki's like, hey, I like my money. I like working for the Young Turks. I like the name recognition. Just tell me what you need to do, and I'll go ahead and convince the Unity Reform Commission that we're going to do that. Maybe give them some leeway on the superdelegates, or give them some leeway on election fraud and election ballot tampering and things like that. It could have went that way. I'm glad it didn't, but it could have went that way. But that's why the media should not be involved in the business of political parties, especially at that level. Like, they took her from TYT, didn't say, hey, we need you to take leave while you're doing it, and said, hey, you're representing us in the Unity Reform Commission with almost zero political experience, like legitimate political experience. Not, I tweet a lot because I'm angry, and I tweet a lot when I support Bernie Sanders, but I actually don't talk about the nuance of these issues because I don't really understand them, because she doesn't. I mean, I'll be honest with you. She doesn't. I'm not being mean. I'm just saying. There's a difference between being a commentator, person who just comments on everything, and being an analyst. And Nomiki is the former rather than the latter. And it's not a bad thing, but it is a bad thing when it starts getting a little dangerous with the rhetoric. Because remember, she was touting the Russia rhetoric for a long time. And we knew that, and we called her out on it. So she was also pushing Hillary. Remember? We remember. And I always said that the chickens would come home to roost when it came to Jordan Sheridan. Because I always said that, well, not always, but in my little small circles, we did know that he was an opportunist. We did know that he liked to pick and choose when he would speak out. And then he even began to toe the line of the Russia rhetoric. Nomiki was screaming Hillary, Then I remember she got into a full-fledged argument with Michael Tracy on the main show about Russia. And all Michael said was like, yo, bro, we shouldn't be practicing this, this hysteria. We need to base if we're going to argue, we can argue about facts. But you saying, but do you work for the Kremlin because you don't agree with me? Like screaming that shit at the top of your lungs all the time is not going to have any meaningful conversation. So, and then I also said that, having a dishonest approach when it comes to what you believe and not hearing anybody out will come back to bite you. And then I think that it's also going to come back to bite the Young Turks, because now this pretty much solidifies what everybody has been thinking, or not really thinking. I think we've all known they are not on the side of progressives. In the week that your representative and who is sitting on the Uniform Commission for the Democratic Party is about to get the superdelegate situation moved in the direction that it needs to be moved into, which is less influence on the Democratic Party and the election as a whole, you fire her? That is the stupidest move that you could have made if you are the Young Turks. Because it's pretty indicative of where your loyalties lie. And it's simply not with us. It's not with us. You only will come out to speak about these controversial issues when it's time to counter the narrative. With all of the positives that are going on with Donald Trump right now as far as North Korea is concerned, you all still manage to nitpick at the stupid things he says. Like, we don't know, he says stupid stuff sometimes. He does that. It's him. It's the thing that Donald Trump does. I got over it a long time ago, and I focus on the fact that, wow, y'all thought he was going to start World War III, and I wish I could find the clip of Cenk and Anna just hammering this in at the beginning of when Trump first got elected. Remember, it was Trump's going to start World War III, and now he's being too easy on Kim Jong-un, when it's very clear that both people on the right and on the left have no idea what the hell is going on with North Korea. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of insight. So, in case you did not know, a lot of you know, but in case you did not know, I have been pretty immersed in Korean culture for some time. Long story. But I even have a Korean flag on my arm. And a lot of people always say, well, if you been around Koreans, then speak some Korean. Well, 안녕하세요. 제 이름은 Niko. 만나서 반갑습니다. Yes, I know it's weird. I'm probably the only black person that speaks Korean. And it's fine. But because of that, I've been to a lot of Korean seminars, very objective Korean seminars dealing with North Korea. I could even give you some details about the weird movement of Jewish Koreans into Russia during World War II. And so you actually have a lot of Koreans with Russian accents who speak perfect Korean and Russian, and you have a lot of Russians who speak perfect Korean. Really weird, I know. But with that being said, my point is that one of the things that all of the objective scholars agree on is that it is actually hard to discern the difference between the problems that were caused by the United States, the problems that were caused by the United States and the rest of the Western world putting together an embargo that kept North Korea out, and the problems that were caused by Kim Jong-il, and the problems that were possibly caused by Kim Jong-un. There is a reason for that. The reason is because we know, for example, that a lot of the information that we got about Cuba was a lie. And there wasn't only an embargo economically, but there was also an informational embargo as well. So apply that logic to almost any fascist nation that you can think of that we were arguing with and fighting with during the McCarthyist Cold War. It's essentially saying that I don't know what the fuck was going on in North Korea, but I do know that they were increasing by 40% GDP every single year after the Korean War, and then we cut them off. And they were actually the fastest growing GDP in the world until we cut them off, and then put, our troops there, and that was after we laid waste to their land. Like, we were bombing civilians. I do know that Kim Jong-un is not seen in the same way as Kim Jong-il is amongst the Korean people. I do know that for some reason, Kim Jong-un does not have the same aura, if you will, as Kim Jong-il. Kim Jong-il seemed evil. Like, he seemed like an evil, broken, jaded man. Kim Jong-un is not like that. And so what most scholars that have first-hand experience agree on is that we don't know. It's very hard to discern the difference between propaganda and what actually happened. And if you are one of those people who are saying, I can't believe that he's working with Kim Jong-un, that means you're perpetuating the establishment war machine. Because the majority of the world agreed about what happened in Cuba, but the majority of the world didn't talk about the fact that Fidel Castro fought for desegregation. Fidel Castro fought on behalf of Nelson Mandela during the apartheid, against the apartheid that we were fighting with, or for, excuse me. We helped to establish the apartheid because our companies and our corporations were invested in it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, they don't talk about the fact that the U.S. had Nazi subsidiaries, Ford, GM, General Electric. But we focus on like maybe 2 to 3, maybe 4 dictators that they had their problems, but the problems were exacerbated by things we did. And a lot of times they were able to stay in power just by saying we will fight against the United States of America because we caused a lot of the problems and the pain in their country. And so for Trump to be the only one to be, I can't believe I'm about to say this, the mature person, and say, you know what? We've been in the wrong so much, so we will stop our military exercises first. Because I know that you have reason to believe that we will go back on our word, and we will be act aggressively against you based off of the actions that we have taken in the past. So I got that. I'll be the mature one. Boom. So the Young Turks, however, would rather say Trump is a maniac. Trump is they just quote mainstream media as the reason Trump shouldn't be trying to make peace with North Korea. And then we're the sword, the warrior that's fighting against mainstream media. Yeah, that sword was bought with $20 million goddamn dollars. That's what it was bought with. Yeah, that's what it was. And so like I said, y'all know how I feel about Nomiki. I think that she is naive. But I gotta give props where props are due. She forced the Democratic Party to move on superdelegates, her and the Unity Commission. I give her props there. Now, where it gets dicey, once again, is the fact that the Young Turks fired her almost within the same week that she got the superdelegates to move. So when Jenks said, oh no, the 20 million was just because we were so good, because we're just that great They gave us $20 million and they expected absolutely nothing in return. Isn't that normally how donors in the Democratic Party work? They just give you money because you're great and never ask for anything in return. Cenk, I know you party hop a lot. I know you were a Republican and then a Libertarian and then a Democrat and then a progressive and then a Democrat again. I know that's how you work. But I know that you know a little bit more about party politics than that. You know, donors don't give you shit unless they want something in return. It's that simple. And this, once again, seems to be another example of how the Young Turks are bought off. They spew propaganda. They've throttled Jimmy Dore, as in you couldn't even watch his aggressive progressive show for a while unless you paid for it. They claimed, remember that big situation where they claimed that nobody was being censored, that we're just imagining things. After the Humanist, Mike Figueredo, made a video talking about it. After Kyle Kalinske, Secular Talk, made a video talking about it. After Jimmy Dore, made a video talking about it. All three of them belong to the Young Turks. But according to the Young Turks, they were all full of shit. And then literally almost 2 days after they claimed that there was no censorship at all whatsoever, CNN Money makes the whole hit piece trying to get them to demonetize Jimmy Dore, which is another form of censorship. But that's not the money talking, though. They can't feel the censorship because they out there rolling the dough. You know, Anna worth close to $3 million. Cenk worth close to $4 to $5 million. Man, that Young Turk money. Pass some of that over here to your progressive homeboys. We still trying to figure out what they raised? $2 million? Where's the $2 million that you were supposed to be spending on other progressive journalists like Jordan Sheridan? Didn't you spend that money on Nomiki? Did you waste $1 million of all those dollars on Nomiki? Because remember they hired Sean King. They hired Nomiki Konst. They hired someone to take over TYT politics. $2 million. And the one person that was left, except for the person who is now managing TYT politics, the one person that was left that we know about from that $2 million that you all helped to donate is now gone. After she actually got something done. She got something positive done. And I don't even like Nomiki, but she got something positive done. But once again, the $20 million had no influence. You know, Pat Hacker just said something that was fantastic. He said, today's youth just wants to belong to a winning team. They don't care what they stand for. And I would agree with that. I would only replace that. I don't think that's just today's youth. I think that's people who are comfortable. George Washington alluded to this obviously a long time ago, and it was like in the beginning, before he was even president. George Washington had said something to the extent of the American people will not really fight as one until like tyranny forces them to do so, as in they have to be in the most uncomfortable position that they could possibly be in before they will begin to fight as one and understand who the actual enemy is. And he was correct about that. He really was. And I don't think that's just the youth, although I think it's a little bit more emblematic in the youth because of the social media era, and we're seeing it. But I also want to say one other thing. And some people may have a problem with this, but I don't really care. Do you notice that Anna is pretty much the only woman who ever gets a lot of FaceTime for the Young Turks? It's not like she's the smartest. It's not like she understands politics better than anybody else. It's mostly that she's been there the longest and she's pretty And that's kind of pretty much it. And she was really popular before she came on the Young Turks, believe it or not. She had like either 2 million, I think she had like 2 million followers on subscribers before she came to the Young Turks. It was crazy. But even Anna admitted that there's a sexism problem at the Young Turks. Now, Anna admitted this. Someone else, I can't actually say the name, unfortunately. I whenever somebody tells me something anonymously, people who have followed me from the very beginning since I was sitting in my car in North Carolina, revealing all the corruption within, all the infiltration from Hillary into the Bernie Sanders campaign. Y'all know I don't play by my anonymous sources, but I've never been wrong when it comes to this stuff. So y'all just gonna have to trust me here. But somebody else told me that there's a huge racism component in the Young Turks. And when you think about it, who do they ever put? When has a black person ever been on the main show regularly? They have never even put a woman of color, like a black woman, on the show regularly. And so we are starting to see that again, that the women and the people of color on the Young Turks are expendable. The opinions of them are not as important. And Cenk, by the way, who thinks that the Armenian genocide didn't happen, by the way, that's Cenk. He still comes under fire for that, which it is speculated that is why he didn't run. Remember, I don't know if y'all know, he gave up his seat. He was supposed to be running in Allison Hartson's position in California for the House of Representatives. And she didn't, or not the House, I think it was for Senate, but she didn't, or he didn't. And that coming back to bite him was a huge fear of his. That's what's being speculated. And the $20 million. So my point is, there are clearly a lot of problems at the Young Turks. I think it's partially because Cenk is an asshole. I truly believe that. I believe Cenk is an arrogant asshole. I do. I want to reiterate that. Cenk is an arrogant asshole. He's a piece of shit. And I am still appalled by the way he covered the Seth Rich story. As someone who tries to paint it off as it's some right-wing conspiracy, when the only reason that anybody cared about Seth Rich is because progressives were demanding justice, not the right. The right had no idea what the hell was going on when Seth Rich died. We were the ones who brought attention to Seth Rich because we knew the inconsistencies in the stories that were given to us by the DNC. Because I was in the process of suing the DNC and still am in the process of suing the DNC, by the way. I was appalled by the way he totally ignored the Uranium One story. He said, this has all been debunked. No, it hasn't. People are literally being indicted for the Uranium One scandal. I was appalled by the way he covered Russiagate and continues to cover Russiagate. And I'm appalled by the way he is beating the war drums for North Korea. I am appalled by the way that he is exemplifying this Trump derangement syndrome. Like everything Trump does is bad. Like he wants Trump to fail. Trump is the president of the United States of America, which is at the moment the most influential country in the world, whether we like it or not. And therefore, I don't want him to fail. I can acknowledge when Trump does something horrible. I can acknowledge when Trump does something great. I tell people all the time, don't get excited about DACA. If you are a Trump fan and you think that he's going to clamp down with DACA and end DACA, don't get excited about it. And I was right. Because in the recent legislation that they've introduced, the Republicans did include a budget for the visas for DACA recipients. Because AIPAC is paying for them. And I like that actually. But I was just saying, I was telling people that like whenever they thought that Trump was going to bring back TPP and rename it, I was like, hold on, people. I don't think that's the case. I think he's entertaining the establishment to a large degree. I think that he brings people in to scare the shit out of people sometimes. And he does what the hell he wants to. Think about his conversations with North Korea. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now they're shaking hands. And Trump is being the first one to initiate the agreement. He said, we're going to demilitarize the area. Because I understand that from your perspective, we would be the ones who would violate the agreement. And that's because of every other agreement that we violated. I like the fact that he broke the deal with Iran, by the way, because it was bullshit. It didn't benefit anybody. It was a neocon, warmongering, like it was bullshit, people. And here's what I think is going to happen. I think he's doing the bait and switch on Iran, just like he's doing the bait and switch on North Korea. He convinced y'all that he hated North Korea. Him and Kim Jong-un couldn't get anything done. And then look, they're shaking hands. Kim Jong-un and President Moon are like holding hands, skipping across each other's borders with a big old smile on his face. And I think he's going to do the same thing with Iran. I would even be willing to bet that Trump will do the same thing with Syria. I'm more than willing to bet that he was actually going to sit down and meet with Assad. I really believe that. I think he is playing the left, the neoliberal left, as fucking fools. I think that they're idiots. Do y'all know that the Democrats try to pass a bill that stopped Trump from removing troops and stopping the military exercises? That would have essentially killed the North Korea deal, because that is one of the contingencies. So that means the Democrats literally try to kill a peace deal for partisan politics. Because, I don't know if you know, but the stocks dropped incredibly amongst all the world profiteers. It dropped. The next day, Democrats were in the House. Nuh-uh, we got to stop this. And you know what the main talking point was, people? Our troops are not bargaining chips. That's so interesting. You don't mind putting our lives in unnecessary danger. And by the way, I am a veteran, in case you did not know. But you don't mind putting our lives in unnecessary danger. But you can't bargain to remove us to preserve peace. It's disgusting. Those donors, that's how influential these donors are. That's why I bring them up. These donors were able to have the Democrats do a 180 overnight. I'm not exaggerating, people. Overnight, they shook hands. The next day, they shook hands, stocks dropped. The next day, those lobbyists were in their office and the Democrats put a bill on the floor to kill the North Korea deal. Not to prevent him from surging troops, but to prevent Trump from removing them. And you are trying to convince me, Jank, Anna, and whoever the hell else who thinks that TYT isn't full of shit, that they are not the establishment. You were trying to convince me that getting $20 million don't mean shit? Come on, people. Trump shakes hands with Kim Jong-un, totally against what the deep state wanted. If you recall, Hillary Clinton even said, we're not doing it. Trump shakes hands with Kim Jong-un, lobbyists making phone calls the same night. The next day, Dems try to kill the deal with legislation, people, using neocon talking points. Want another example? This is how influential lobbyists are. Trump removed CIA from Syria. Not even a week later, all of a sudden chemical attacks happened. That, by the way, never happened. Thank you, Mad Dog Mattis, for being honest about that. They never happened. Next day, Rachel Maddow, Joanne Reed, all the establishment Democrats beating the war drums. Almost all of that happened within a week. Same thing happened the next time Syria had chemical attacks that Rand Paul said had not been substantiated. It had not been proven. It had not been. It was not. It looks like it didn't even happen. But remember, Huffington Post released an article saying Donald Trump in open conflict with his administration about removing troops completely out of Syria. Boom, chemical attacks. Next day, war drums. That's what the lobbyists pay for. So for anybody to come onto my comment section or go on to, their little show and say, what are you talking about? Nomiki getting fired had nothing to do with the fact that she finally got superdelegates to move, or the Democrats to move on superdelegates. The Democrats are very open about how pissed they are about the superdelegates. And then she gets fired. Doesn't make a comment, which is, if you followed Nomiki long enough, Nomiki not making comments is not common. Nomiki comments on everything. I remember when me and Jordan got into our little beef, whenever he was beefing with myself and HA and Tim Black, Nomiki went all the way to Facebook to argue with me. So the fact that she didn't comment speaks a lot. I'd be interested to know about what you think about this. If you have not yet, go register for justinform.com. Join us in our evolution for social media. It is a platform for those who are tired of censorship, for those who are tired of having, their posts deleted by Facebook, tired of having their data stolen and sold behind our backs, tired of having companies that have been invested in by the CIA directly, like, Facebook, Twitter to a degree, Brigade, the debate app, pretty much any major social media platform. Look up In-Q-Tel if you're curious what I'm talking about. They're not really shy about it. However, we are not paid for by any intelligence money at all. So join us on justinform.com. As you can see, the label is right there, top, right above the right side of my head. And let's join the MCSC discussion group. Let's talk about this. I would love to know what you think personally about Nomiki's firing, the $20 million that was invested into TYT by the top Democratic Party donors, and if that does have any influence on the outcome of what we're about to see unfold. And I even have another question that I want you all to discuss in the MCSC discussion group on Just Inform. Do you all think that Jimmy Dore is next? Do you all think that before the Democratic primaries that Jimmy Dore is going to be fired? That they will release him from the network? I really hope that he's not. But I think it's something that's worth exploring. So go ahead, register for Just Inform. Just go to justinform.com. Right above my head. You see it up there. And always remember, more than anything else, people, find your balance. Peace.